What's up, guys? Brannon, the Liberated Therapist here. I have broken free from the burnout of private practice. I have scaled businesses, I have created products, and I am here to talk to you about how to do it yourself. But what I'm going to talk about right now are things that therapists are thinking but not saying. I'm going to pull back the curtain just a little bit. So just picture this. You're sitting across on a couch, talking to a therapist. They're smiling, they're holding space, they're being empathetic, they're doing everything that they're supposed to do as a therapist. But they're not telling you some things. And the reason they're not telling you things is not because they're dishonest, not because they're bad people. It's because they have been socialized to keep some of these things in and to not talk about them. And those things are actually corroding them from the inside and making it difficult for them to actually stay therapists for the long run. So I'm going to pull back the curtain just a little bit and show you the things that therapists actually think but might not admit. So first, a little bit of context. Being a therapist on paper sounds like a really meaningful career. People go into therapy because they want purpose in their life. You want to help people in their worst moments. You want to guide someone out of their anxiety, grief, trauma. You want to save marriages. You watch people rebuild their lives and you get to be a part of that, and it's amazing. And it is meaningful. I always say doing therapy is high reward, but it's high burnout. But there's a shadow side to this profession, and that's what that burnout is, that almost nobody actually talks about. The training doesn't prepare you for it as a therapist. The licensing boards, they don't warn you about it. They talked about burnout a little bit when I went to school, but they didn't really teach me much how to handle it or what to do. And the culture of therapy itself is a culture about helping others and not so much yourself. Why are we designed to do 8 hours a day of sessions? I don't think a human is designed to sit and listen that long every day. It makes it almost impossible to admit that it doesn't work the way that it's set up for therapists. It's not built for therapists to have good mental health. Isn't that ironic? So let's get into it. Here's the 3 things that a therapist will think, but probably never say to you. The first thing that a therapist will never say is, I want to make a lot of money. I want to be financially comfortable. I want to make real money. Because the moment you say that out loud as a therapist, you sound like you got into this for the wrong reasons. There's this unwritten rule in mental health that it's almost like a moral code that says if you really care about people, money shouldn't matter to you. But here's the reality. The national median salary for a private practice therapist is about $64,000 a year. You can't support a family on that these days. Absolutely not. So let that sink in. So this is someone who has a master's degree, often a 6-year educational commitment. They've done 2 years post-grad of getting hours so that they can get licensed, thousands of supervised clinical hour work before they can even have a client and build their own practice. While gross billings in private practice can average around $150,000 a year, the take-home falls to about 90 grand if you're doing really well as a therapist. So you pay things like payroll, malpractice, insurance, all kinds of stuff. And that's if you're doing well. So entry-level therapists in their first year often start around $50,000. I got my undergraduate in economics, and I went back and got my master's in social work, and I took a pay cut because I got a master's degree. I had a better job, a better paying job after my undergraduate degree than going back and becoming a therapist. So now compare that, their finances, to what they're carrying emotionally for their clients. Every day a therapist sits with people processing trauma, suicidal ideation, abuse, addiction, grief, and they carry that home. It lives in their body, and they do it again and again for a wage that doesn't even come close to matching the weight of the work that they're doing. Among therapists that accept insurance, 82% report inadequate reimbursement. 82%. And over half experience delayed or unreliable payments. So sometimes therapists, in other words, they do free sessions and they end up not getting paid. So why don't they say it out loud? Why don't they say they need more money or want more money? Because the field has taught them to be ashamed of abundance. The good therapist is supposed to be selfless, driven purely by purpose, mission, helping people. And so therapists quietly struggle financially, sometimes working second jobs, sometimes burning through savings. When I was in graduate school, a therapist friend of mine got a really good paying job as a therapist, and I was surprised. And one of my professors caught wind of it, and she was disgusted that they would pay them so much. What? She was a therapist herself, but she was disgusted that they would give that person so much money for the therapy they were doing. So all the while, your therapist is just sitting there smiling on that chair across from you, trying to do the best therapy that they can, but deep down holding this inside. So this isn't unique to therapists, but it's particularly painful in a field that attracts deeply empathetic people who hold so much space for people. They do it because they care. And the system takes advantage of their bleeding hearts, their good hearts. The second thing that a therapist won't say out loud is, I feel trapped. I feel trapped by my career. I feel trapped by my caseload. So think about what it actually takes to build a private practice. You go to school for years, you get licensed, you build a caseload. It can take 2 or 3 years of grinding it to actually market yourself to build up that business. And you're working for almost nothing before you even feel stability or any bit of real abundance. And then as you're working with those clients, the burnout starts to creep in. You're trading time for money, so when you go on vacation, you're always worried about the money that you're losing. You're also worried about that client that really needs you. You're thinking about, how you can help this person or that person all the time. Approximately 60% of mental health professionals report experience burnout. That's a high number. Among those with a caseload exceeding 20 clients a week, that goes up to 75%. So according to a 2023 Simple Practice survey of 550 therapists, more than half had experienced burnout in the last year. That's 50%. 30% of those that Simple Practice asked were currently burned out. So what makes burnout completely insidious for mental health professionals is that the very skills that make someone an effective therapist, the empathy, the emotional attunement, sustained presence, those things are the exact resources that get depleted over time. The tools of the trade, the very thing that a therapist is good at, become the source of the problem. And then you throw on top of all of that the administration burden it takes to run a business. A third of clinicians say most of their time goes to administrative work. And 68% report that paperwork cuts into their clinical time. They didn't spend years learning the therapy to spend their afternoons fighting insurance companies. top contributors to burnout include work-life balance challenges, administrative burdens, compassion fatigue, and personal life stressors. So you throw that all together and it's just like, it's too much. So a trapped therapist looks like a therapist who is emotionally exhausted but can't reduce their caseload. They got to pay their rent, their student loans. Looks like a therapist who has built a reputation around a specialty. They're really good at it. And now they can't pivot without losing everything that they've built. Because they are good at that and they're getting clients in that area, even though they might be tired of talking about it. It looks like someone who's poured their identity into being a therapist and they don't know what else is out there. They just are a therapist, but they're burned out. A therapist cannot say, I feel trapped, because that would feel like ingratitude for the clients that they have. It would undermine that they're in a field that they do feel purpose in. It's like a betrayal to their self and their clients to say that they feel trapped as a private practice therapist. And even to their families, their spouses who have sacrificed so much to help and support them to build their business. And then say, I feel stuck and I feel trapped. So they stay in their business. They absorb all of the energy. They juggle all of these things, and therapists struggle with their mental health. All right, the last thing that a therapist won't say out loud, and this is when burnout really starts to settle in. This starts to happen. But they won't say out loud that at times they think about, dream about, contemplate a different career. I want a completely different career. When I finally got up to 30 sessions a week and I was running like 4 or 5 groups a week, I thought I had made it, and I quickly found myself wishing that I was a farmer. A farmer. And I would love to be a farmer. Now, I had some probably delusions about what farming is because I don't know a thing about it, but I just thought, man, to sit on a tractor, listen to music, and not talk to anybody sounds like the best thing in the entire world. Because I want to do anything but hear about someone else's issues and problems at this point. And that was at the height of my practice with my clients. Therapists think about leaving the profession entirely. I've heard about therapists talking about wanting to go get a job as a bus driver, wanting to go get a job at the local nursery. Therapists feel like they can't take vacation, they can't cut back hours. So, and they're financially strapped, and so although they contemplate leaving their career, they don't actually do it. Nearly a third of therapists who experience burnout in the past year have considered leaving the mental health field completely. And of all practitioners who have thought about leaving, 57% say they plan to do so within the next 5 years. This is all coming from Simple Practice survey statistics. So let that land for just a second. 57% say that they plan to leave the mental health field in the next 5 years. More than half of therapists are thinking about being done. About 25% of therapists have reported considering quitting their profession due to burnout. And we know that about 40% of burned out therapists actually seek help for it, meaning they go get their own therapy. So among those who are burned out, 73% say they hesitate to take on more complex or acute clients. And over half have reduced their caseload. So at least they're starting to take some steps because they're so burned out. But the problem is the very foundation of their business is broken. The system that they're working under, the society that we live in, is the thing that is undermining them from being healthy, happy people. Here's the irony of it all. Therapists are supposed to be the ones who process difficult feelings, who hold space for pain, who have healthy boundaries, who don't avoid hard stuff. And yet the very things they'll tell a client, acknowledge what you're feeling, don't white knuckle through things, face it, they can't seem to figure it out themselves when it comes to their career. Saying I want out feels like abandoning their clients, feels like wasting their degree, letting down the people who need them. So they stay quiet, they keep showing up, they smile, and they burn out. So why does any of this matter? If you go to therapy or if you're a therapist, I just want to say that mental health practices for therapists is very important. 3/4 of burned out therapists say they're hesitant to take on clients with severe or acute needs, which is smart. The workforce is quietly fracturing under pressure, and the shortage of therapists keeps growing. We need good therapists. But more than that, this matters because we've built an entire cultural system and story around therapists being selfless, endlessly patient, emotionally invincible, and it's a lie. They are humans. That person sitting across from you has feelings, and they're humans. And we need to rethink the way that we do our mental health. We need to rethink the way we deliver it, the way we help people. We need to bring in all different kinds of systems and not have one person hold so much in order for other people to get better. Therapists want financial security. They get tired. They dream of living the life that they want and not being burned out all the time. So I'm saying these things out loud because I want to fix these things, and my passion, my purpose is to help therapists to not burn out. If you're a therapist watching this, you're allowed to feel the things that I've been talking about. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to ask for help. You're allowed to want more money. So if this resonated with you, if you are one of those people feeling burned out, then I would invite you to, one, subscribe to my channel here because I'll keep talking about topics like this. And two, to check out Therapy Co., where I actually help therapists get unstuck and set up practices that don't lead to burnout. So go to therapyco.org and find me there, therapyco.org, and I will show you exactly how to set up a practice and a system for you so that you won't be dreaming of other careers and a way that you could actually make good money. All right, I'll see you there.